There are mornings when the sky feels heavier, not because of clouds but because of questions. Questions we don't always ask out loud. Am I leading well? Is my team thriving? Am I just managing, or truly making a difference? In the quiet hours of a Monday morning, before the first meeting, before the inbox floods, a leader sits alone, perhaps with a cup of coffee, perhaps with doubt, or with the weight of decisions unmade. That moment is sacred, because in it, something stirs. The yearning to lead better, not louder, to influence not by title, but by trust. Welcome to Guide to Reads, where books become more than paper and ink. They become wisdom passed down in a whisper, a reflection, a story told at just the right time. Today we open the pages of Monday Morning Leadership, 8 Mentoring Sessions You Can't Afford to Miss, by David Cottrell, a book that reads less like a manual and more like a wise companion. It tells the story of Jeff, a struggling manager who seeks guidance from Tony, a mentor who doesn't give answers, but unlocks insight. Each chapter in this book unfolds like a quiet awakening, one Monday at a time, reminding us that leadership is not about charisma, but character. It's not about control, but clarity. And perhaps most importantly, it's not about being in charge, but about being in service. This is not a podcast about business strategy or performance metrics. This is a podcast about becoming the kind of leader whose influence lives long after the meeting ends. Whether you're managing a team, raising a family, or simply leading yourself, this episode offers something timeless, principles that hold firm when everything else shakes. So sit with us now, not just to listen, but to lean in, to a conversation that could very well change the way you see Monday mornings, and perhaps change the way you lead forever. Chapter 1. The Mirror of Priorities. Before leading others forward, you must know where you stand and what truly matters. Tony, the mentor in Monday Morning Leadership, doesn't start with tactics or team dynamics. He starts with the mirror, not the one on your wall, but the one held quietly in front of your priorities. Imagine a leader waking up every day, answering 100 emails, attending meetings, solving problems, rushing from task to task, and yet drifting, directionless. That's Jeff's story, and perhaps ours too. The first lesson Tony teaches Jeff is striking in its simplicity and weight. You are in charge of what's most important. Not your calendar, not the crisis of the day, you. Leadership, as Cottrell reminds us, begins not with people, but with purpose. And purpose demands that you decide what matters most before the world decides it for you. When you don't define your top priorities, your team will work on whatever screams the loudest, and chaos becomes the unspoken leader. But when your vision is clear, your people move in harmony. Like a compass pointing north, they align, adjust, and advance together. Ask yourself, do I know what truly matters this quarter, this week, today? And more importantly, do they know it too? Tony challenges Jeff with a haunting question. If your team can't name your top 3 priorities, do they really exist? So here lies the heart of this first session. Clarity precedes productivity. A confused team works hard, but rarely works together. Think of your leadership as a lighthouse. Your clarity doesn't just light your path, it protects your team from crashing into distractions, fear, and fatigue. Leadership is not measured by how many things you manage. It's measured by how few things matter, and how deeply you commit to them. So what should you do on your next Monday morning? Don't dive into the to-do list. Start with a deeper question. What matters this week? Write it, name it, share it. Because until you own your priorities, you'll be owned by everything else. Before a ship sets sail, it checks its direction. Before a leader moves, they must check their purpose. Chapter 2. Escape from Management Land. You can't lead people if you're buried beneath what they should be doing. There is a place many leaders unknowingly live in. It's not marked on any map, but its signs are everywhere. Endless to-do lists, back-to-back meetings, constant firefighting. It's a land where problems grow faster than people, and it has a name: Management Land. This is where Jeff had taken up residence. He was busy, constantly busy, but progress, growth, purpose, these things had faded into the fog. Tony, like a wise guide, offers him a choice. You can stay in Management Land, or you can lead. Because here's the truth. Being busy is not the same as being effective. Running fast doesn't mean you're moving forward. In management land, the leader becomes a fixer of problems, a checker of boxes, a responder to every beep and buzz. But the more you manage tasks, the more you forget to lead people. And when leadership is absent, the culture begins to decay. Cottrell makes this painfully clear. People will perform to the standard you accept, not the one you expect. Think about that. If your team is constantly underperforming, unclear, or disengaged, it may not be their lack of potential, but your lack of boundaries and vision. Escaping management. Land doesn't mean you stop working. It means you start working on the right things. Setting expectations. Raising standards. Coaching, not just correcting. Tony offers Jeff this metaphor. You're in the driver's seat. Stop acting like a passenger. And so must we. True leadership is not reacting to problems. It's building people who prevent them. It's not micromanaging, it's mentoring. It's not doing their job. It's helping them grow into it. Let's ask ourselves, am I spending more time reacting or guiding? Do I trust my team to lead, or am I the bottleneck of every decision? The moment you stop solving every problem is the moment your people start growing. And that's the soil where real leadership blossoms. Escape management land, and you reclaim the sacred ground of vision, where leaders rise and people follow not because they have to, but because they want to. From the trenches of task chasing to the highlands of leadership. The second session reminds us that great leaders build other leaders, not more work. Chapter 3. The Art of Hiring Tough. The future of your team doesn't begin with training. It begins with who you let walk through the door. Leadership is often judged by performance metrics, growth charts, and smooth processes. But beneath all of that lies something quieter, something more decisive. Hiring. Not just how you hire, but who you hire. In the third mentoring session, Tony brings Jeff face to face with one of leadership's most uncomfortable truths. You're not just leading the people you have, you're leading the people you allowed in. Let that sink in. Every dysfunctional team dynamic, every culture problem, every drop in performance, it often traces back to a compromised hiring decision. Why? Because in moments of pressure or need, leaders get tempted to fill the gap quickly. We're understaffed. I'll train them later. They're not ideal, but they'll do. But Cottrell urges us to pause, to resist, because the consequences of a rushed hire echo far beyond the offer letter. Hire tough so you can manage easy, or hire easy and you'll manage hard every single day. Great leadership requires patience at the front gate. It means asking the hard questions early, not cleaning up the mess later. It means looking beyond resumes and credentials and searching for character, resilience, and alignment with values. Tony challenges Jeff with a principle many avoid. You can teach skills, but you can't teach character. A sharp mind without humility will tear a team apart. A talented hand without emotional maturity will poison your culture. But a team member with integrity, hunger to grow, and a spirit of contribution, that's gold. And hiring tough isn't just about saying yes to the right people. It's also about having the courage to say no to the wrong ones, even when it's inconvenient, even when it leaves a temporary gap, because a vacancy is easier to carry than a bad hire you have to carry forever. So ask yourself, am I hiring with intention or desperation? Do I truly know the kind of person I'm inviting into our culture? And when I say yes to someone, would I trust them to lead alongside me one day? Hiring is not a checklist. It's the silent foundation of legacy. Every person you bring in becomes a thread in the fabric of your team, and over time, that fabric becomes the culture you wear every day. Choose carefully. Lead courageously. And remember, the strength of a team doesn't begin in the meeting room. It begins in the interview chair. In leadership, your greatest decision is not always strategic. Sometimes, it's relational. And the strongest strategy is often a single, thoughtful no. Chapter 4. Take control of your time, or it will control you. The greatest leaders don't work harder than everyone else. They simply protect what matters most. Time is the currency of leadership. It's not your knowledge, not your charisma, not even your experience. It is, in the end, what you choose to give your minutes to. Day after day, decision after decision. In this fourth mentoring session, Tony offers Jeff a wake-up call. If you don't decide how your time is spent, someone else will. And how true that is, we've all been there. You begin the day with intention, but by noon, you're buried in meetings, chasing emails, handling crises that aren't yours. And the real priorities? They're buried at the bottom of your to-do list. This is the leadership trap: being busy but not impactful, being present in everything but effective in nothing. Tony teaches Jeff that reclaiming leadership begins with reclaiming your time, not through control but through clarity. Time management, he says, isn't about getting more done. It's about getting the right things done and letting go of the rest. In other words, it's not about motion but meaning. Here's the hard truth. Every yes you give is a no to something else. Every interruption, every unnecessary meeting, every task you do that someone else could, is a small theft from your deeper work. So what's the solution? Prioritize high-impact activities, not just what's urgent, but what's truly important. Ask, what are the few things only I can do? What brings the greatest return for the time invested? Delegate with trust. Leadership is not about doing it all. It's about building people who can, and will, do it with excellence. Delegation isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Guard your boundaries. That means having the strength to say no, not out of pride, but out of purpose. If your calendar doesn't reflect your priorities, Tony says, then your leadership won't reflect your values. Time, when misused, turns leaders into machines. But when honored, it turns leaders into mentors, visionaries, and change makers. And so the deeper question emerges. Are you spending your time, or are you investing it? Imagine this. What if you began the week by protecting 2 hours for deep thinking? What if you removed one low-impact task every day and gave that time back to vision, to people, to growth? Time doesn't care who you are, but how you use it will define who you become. Leadership is not about how much you do, it's about what you make possible through your presence. Let your time reflect the leader you aspire to be, not just the one buried in tasks. Chapter 5. Fill more buckets than you drain. True leadership is less about authority and more about generosity of spirit. Imagine a simple bucket, sturdy and plain. Now imagine every interaction you have with your team, your family, your friends, either fills that bucket or slowly drains it. This metaphor, shared by David Cottrell, reveals a profound truth about leadership that often goes unspoken. Every word, every gesture, every expectation either nourishes or depletes the human soul. Jeff, the mentee, learns that leadership isn't just about decisions or strategies. It's about emotional investment. Leadership is emotional labor, Tony tells him. If you drain more than you fill, you'll be empty before they are. Think about it. How often have you felt weighed down by a boss, colleague, or even yourself? The boss who only criticizes, the leader who demands without support, the manager whose presence feels like a burden, not a blessing. Cottrell urges us to shift that paradigm, from leadership as a relentless taker to leadership as a net positive force. To lead well is to fill more buckets than you drain. This means offering sincere praise, not empty flattery. Giving constructive feedback wrapped in respect and care. Showing up consistently, not just for outcomes, but for people. Creating a culture where support flows as naturally as challenge. Why is this so important? Because human beings thrive on connection. When a leader fills buckets, trust grows, engagement deepens, creativity blooms, and performance, true, sustainable performance, follows. Tony's lesson is clear. If you want your team to go the extra mile, you must first walk the extra mile with them. Leadership here is a daily choice: to build others up, to invest your energy generously, and to carry weight together. Ask yourself, am I a bucket filler or a bucket drainer? Do my words and actions leave people lighter or heavier? What small gestures can I offer today to fill a bucket, maybe even mine own? Remember, leadership is never a solo journey. It is a shared river of energy, and the leader's role is to keep it flowing strong and clear. Fill more buckets than you drain, and your leadership will become a wellspring, a source of life, growth, and lasting impact. As we close this chapter, let this be your leadership mantra. Lead with generosity, and you will never lead alone. Final reflection. The journey of leadership unfolded. Leadership is less a position and more a journey, a slow unfolding of clarity, courage, and care. We began this episode in the quiet of a Monday morning, where questions whispered, "Am I leading well? Am I making a difference?" Through David Cottrell's mentoring sessions, we have walked with Jeff, a leader in search of himself and his team. And in his journey, we find our own. We learned that leadership starts with clarity of priorities, a compass for the soul and the team, that escaping the trap of endless management frees us to inspire and uplift, that hiring tough is a bold act of integrity, building not just teams, but legacies. That time is our most sacred resource, and how we steward it reflects who we are as leaders. And perhaps most deeply, that leadership is an emotional contract, a promise to fill more buckets than we drain. These lessons are not just for managers or CEOs, they are for anyone who holds influence, in the boardroom, the classroom, the family dinner. For leadership is not about power, but presence, not about control, but connection. So, as you face your own Monday morning, remember this. A book may not be enough to change the world, but it can change your world. One choice, one moment, one action at a time. If this episode kindled a spark in you, share it with those who walk alongside you, because leadership, like wisdom, grows when passed on. Thank you for joining us on Guide to Reads, where every book is a lantern and every story a step on the path to becoming. In every book there is wisdom, in every wisdom there is a flash, and in every flash a message waiting to be told.